Okay. Hi, Mike. Yeah, we have you here, and you obviously, with your t-shirt, are working for Weswimrun. So, Mike, just tell us a little bit about yourself and yeah, who you are, what races you have, and this sort of thing.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Hector. So I started racing swimrun events about 10 years ago, and I started organising and obviously running and swimming events in between. And I started organising swim events in Wales, Snowdonia National Park, in 2017. And since then, I've organised trail and mountain races and some swimrun events too. And yeah, I've got Abu Dhabi Swims, the big one. That's coming up on the 11th of September. And then there's Cadair Idris half marathon. That's the one. And then Tallyclyn, which is a lake in Wales. There's a swim run there. So yeah, it's all swimming and running, no biking. And I've used various entry systems over the years. And now I'm with RaceID. I found RaceID because I entered one of the Otelo swimrun events a few years ago, and they used RaceID at the time, and I just thought it was a good system, easy to register. So
that's great. Yeah, fantastic. And we're of course really happy that you found us, and in particular some of your events super cool. All the Cadair Idris races, of course. Cadair Idris is a fantastic mountain in Wales. Highly recommend if anyone watching this has not been to Cadair Idris to also go and visit, because it's a fantastic mountain. And of course, swimming in the sea. Yeah, how did you describe it? It's pretty fresh, right?
Yeah, well, it can be. Yeah, yeah. It's never the same in the Dovey estuary. It's it's a bit of it's mostly sea kind of experience, but there's a little bit of river the further you go in. And it can take all sorts of conditions and winds. But yeah, it's always different. So it's such a dynamic environment with the tide and the weather. So, and it's beautiful, of course.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so in terms of RaceID and all your races that you have with us and taking registrations and such, how has it helped you then? You know, obviously you came to us from a participant angle, but as an organizer, how is it for being an organizer with RaceID?
Well, it's great. It's pretty simple to get set up. You can get, if you've got a request or a question, it's kind of dealt with pretty quickly. And the main thing for me is my experience as a participant kind of informed whether I should use them as a director, and it's just a nice user interface for participants. The start list is all where you can link that. Well, it's already linked to the timing app that RaceID have got. So for the simpler, not too big in terms of participant numbers, that timing app's great, because as soon as you press the finished, number 22, it pops up on the website, on the RaceID website, which is where the participants signed in originally. So that's kind of smooth in terms of results. Works better for some events than others. Yeah, and it feels like it's a progressive. It's not just sitting. RaceID are progressive, always trying to improve what they offer. And it's linked to app. You can have app notifications, which I've not really used loads, but I can imagine using more and more as people seem to be using apps more and get notified. Probably a better kind of notification record of people noticing these, rather than emails seem to get lost a little bit with some of my participants. Occasionally go to spam, or they get so many emails they don't read them. So there's that dual aspect of app notification and email. So yeah, that's a few things.
No, great. And it's great that you mentioned the participant experience, because it's something that you know, when we talk with race organizers like yourselves, we're obviously telling them like, yeah, you know, it's a good experience for your participants, but it's very hard for us to sort of get that across in a good way, or you know, show them the experience of the participant before they actually sign up to RaceID. So great. And so you mentioned the app there, the timing app, which is, you know, it's called the RaceID timing app, and it's essentially the organizer app as well. So for our organizers, they can download it, and then, yeah, all the races displayed, all the distances within each race is displayed. So, you know, you can have multiple distances, and you can message, like you say, different distances, different messages, or you can just do all the same message. That then they receive a pop-up notification on their phone if they've downloaded the RaceID participant app. And what would you say then in terms of your timing app use with RaceID? You know, the experience of it, and this sort of thing, and any improvements that you think could be made. Like, obviously, yeah, just describe a little bit your use of it, and how you think that going forward into the future, it's going to be a key part of your business.
Yeah, so I've used it, and the first time I used it was the Tally Clin Cool Mile swim, which was a mile swim in cold water. I think it wasn't too cold, it was about 9.5 degrees, so quite cold for most people. And the number of participants was 60. Like that was a sellout number. I keep it quite small because it's when you've got people in cold water, you want to be able to not have too many people cold. So that worked great. It was I suppose the resource you need is someone competent who can. Sounds easy, obviously. Press, you know, 2. Yeah, number 2's finished. But it's vital that number 2 is number 2 getting out, and you do press number 2. Mistakes can be made, I guess, when there's about 4 different finishes more or less the same time, which happens less if you've got less than, say, 200 participants. The longer the event is, obviously, the more spread out the participants get. So I wouldn't want to be using the app for 500 swimmers unless it was a 10K or 20K, you know, where they get really spread out.
Yeah.
So yeah, thinking about managing the finish. I know with swimming, running's probably simpler in some ways, but with swimming, some races finish in the water. The Cool Mile does, and then some you get out of the water, and then so thinking about how the finish is and where the person with the app is going to be was important for that event. I actually had 2 people on that one checking that, because they had numbered hats for that event, and one person was in the water with me. I was in the water checking the numbered hat and shouting out to the land-based app person. So that was great, worked brilliant. And then, you know, people come up, oh, results, it is online already. So that's a nice thing to be able to say, because although participants should know they're going to get the results, they're not sure when sometimes, and some people get really anxious about that, and some people don't, you know, whatever. Another use of it, I used it on last year's 13-kilometer swim in Abu Dhabi. I think it's the longest estuary swim race in the UK. And I actually used that on my waterproof Samsung tablet. So I had the tablet, I was on a stand-up paddleboard at the finish. So that worked well. Yeah, so the limitations are numbers, estimating how tight together people are going to finish. I have used a similar app a few years ago on a running race. It was about 200-ish. And there were groups of 5 to 8 finishing together. You need more manpower on checking race numbers in that situation. So yeah,
That's interesting. And like compared with any previous timing systems or, you know, things, timing chips or whatever that you've perhaps used in the past, what would you say, like the pros, the cons, like
Yeah.
why is it that you choose the timing app when you do, or compared with what you were using previously?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So reasons why I've not used it. So for an ultra marathon, 50-mile ultra, I've used GPS tracking devices. Obviously, a lot more expensive for each individual racer, but they're great devices for an ultra in rough terrain, wild, remote terrain. So that's kind of a
Safety, then that's a safety thing.
It's a more of a safety thing, yeah. But they also offer the times as well, the time results.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, the other one, I potentially won't use it on I've got a Beat the Tide 4K and a 1.5K swim on the 1st of October in Abu Dhabi. So 2 distances going off, not at the same time, about 15 minutes apart. And I haven't decided finally yet, but I'll potentially use my NFC wristbands for that because it could get complex with the timing app, more complex than I want it to be. So yeah, I haven't decided. I'll give it some more thought. But with the 2 distances going off, I might use the tips where they just put their NFC band against a reader.
Yeah.
The disadvantages of those, participants have lost a couple of those. The wrist one, not the ankle ones, which is annoying.
I mean, they're not too expensive, obviously, but there is expensive.
It's a cost. Yeah. And the main disadvantage, apart from that, probably is the slickness of getting the results to where you want the participants to see them. It is automatic if you set it up correctly. It takes a bit more time, so there's a time element. Sorry, so the time setting that up and giving out also each participant to have the right NFC wristband. So there's a time element at registration to allocate MX528124 to Tom Jones or whoever. So yeah.
Cool that you're getting Tom Jones to come to your races, though.
He does come. It's a different Tom Jones to the singer, but there is a regular Tom Jones. Obviously, he's a runner rather than he does do a bit of swimming, but yeah.
Good. Yeah. Swimming and singing. All right. So in terms of recommendations, then, would you? Obviously, you're using RaceID and you're using the timing app. In terms of your recommendations, then, is the RaceID platform and the way participants enter and everything like this, is it a strong recommendation for you, or how would you say, race organizers should think about using RaceID as a platform in terms of participants, also in terms of maybe using the timing app, and just in terms of the kind of the admin and the features that RaceID has on its site for organizers?
I think it's for certain races. For the ones I organise, it's a strong recommendation. It feels quite easy to set up a race. There's quite a lot of freedom in what you can do. Most registration admins are quite easy to use, but probably RaceID feels maybe easier than some. It's just a nice experience to set up the races, and for participants. I've asked people, because I've changed from other companies, I've asked, how did you find the sign up process? And the ones who've got back to me have said it's easy. And they can, another thing they can do is sign up 2 participants. So one person can sign up, one of their friends or whatever, which was a nice feature. It it's not perfect. Like, well, nothing is perfect, I suppose, but it feels like it's RaceID are trying to aspire to be perfect and grow. Like, the features seem to be adding along the way, or they're working on different things. If I have a request for something, it's usually there's potentially it's going to happen. I feel like the app has got more potential to be used more by participants. It would be cool if RaceID did have some GPS tracking, but that's probably maybe another story.
Funny you mentioned that, Mike. It is actually funny. We've not spoken about this, but we are working on a special project.
Okay.
Yeah, but it will be based on mobile phones. The participant takes their mobile phone with them, and if they're logged in to the app on their phone, then that can be coupled into a timing device. Basically, it turns the phone into a GPS tracker and timer through the RaceID app. That's what we're working on. Hot news for you.
Okay.
So that's coming soon. Maybe not so good for swimming, but
yeah. Okay. So yeah, things like that. So there's things they're always working on.
That's great. I can just summarize to say that, of course, RaceID, we're still kind of a startup company in this space. We're not that well established in terms of how long we've been working in the outdoor events industry, and how long the company's been started. It was only 2017 we took our first race, and now we've got nearly 8,000 races. But yeah, we're looking to obviously to grow and to make it basically the best experience for race organizers. So input from you, Mike, is very much appreciated and really does help us to develop the product. And thanks very much for the interview today. We had some difficulties in the beginning, obviously, and you're sitting there taking this on your phone. So very much appreciate all the help and all the input that you've had today, and we'll speak in the future. But thanks, Mike, and take care.
Thanks, Hector. Good to see you.
Yeah.